Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Malia Hampton, and joining us today from the Australian Army is Captain Malcolm Hughes. We warmly welcome the family of Pilot Officer Tasman Leonard Williams, whose story will be told shortly. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families who love and support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the pool of reflection by family, visitors and students on behalf of the following schools. From New South Wales, Mamre Anglican College, Primary Department, Erskine Park. From Victoria, Dramana Primary School. And from South Australia, St Joseph's School, Barmera. If you are able, please stand and join in singing the national anthem. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land that they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Pilot Officer Tasman Leonard Williams. Tasman Williams was born on the 12th of July 1923, the son of John and Lavina Williams of Derby, a riverside town in the northeast of Tasmania, where he grew up on Main Street. On the 22nd of December 1941, the 18-year-old Tasman Williams enlisted in the Royal Australian Air Force Reserve. At the time, he was working as a clerk. Around 6 months later, on the 19th of June 1942, Williams enlisted in the RAAF and began training as a wireless operator, air gunner. In May 1943, Williams was promoted to pilot officer and embarked from Sydney, bound for the United Kingdom. As part of the Empire Air Training Scheme, Williams was one of almost 27,500 RAAF pilots, navigators, wireless operators, gunners, and engineers who, through the course of the war, trained in anticipation of joining Royal Air Force squadrons or Australian squadrons based in Britain. Arriving in the United Kingdom in early July, he was transferred to Dumfries in Scotland, where he continued his training at Number 10 Advanced Flying Unit before joining Number 20 Operational Training Unit in northeastern Scotland. On the 24th of May 1944, Pilot Officer Williams was posted to Number 102 Squadron, which was attacking rail targets in France in preparation for the D-Day invasion. Tasman was attached to Number 102 Squadron during the invasion of Normandy, and in August was transferred to Number 466 Squadron, which was based at RAF Druffield in Yorkshire. On the night of the 15th and the 16th of October 1944, Williams was the wireless operator air gunner aboard a Halifax bomber tasked with a mission over the coastal town of Wilhelmshaven in Germany. When the aircraft failed to return, the crew were reported missing and then presumed dead. Wing Commander H.W. Connolly wrote of Pilot Officer Williams's qualities of resolution and efficiency, and he described the crew's efforts as an inspiration to us all. Later, information was received from the International Red Cross that Williams and 2 other Australian members of the crew were buried at Wittmund, near Wilhelmshaven in Germany. It was eventually confirmed that the aircraft had crashed at Juksted, 25 kilometres from Wilhelmshaven. The only surviving member was Polish, Sergeant Kemp, who became a prisoner of war. The remainder of the crew died. Flight Officer Albert Henry Munro, Pilot Officer Ernest Thompson, Flight Sergeant Harvey Roy Harris, Pilot Officer William Stones, Flight Sergeant George William Dawson, and Pilot Officer Tasman Williams, who was 21 years old. The crew members' remains were later moved to Saga Cemetery in Niedersachsen, Germany. Weeks before he was killed, Tasman Williams had written home to his mother, assuring her that he would be home soon after the fighting had ceased in Europe. Tasman Williams' brother, Ronald George Williams, survived the war and returned home in 1945 after being a prisoner of war from February 1942. Ronald was posthumously awarded a Distinguished Service Medal in 2019. Their mother believed she had lost both sons in the service of their country. Sadly, only one returned, and we honour them both. Today, Tasman Williams lies under the inscription chosen by his grieving family. His duty fearlessly and nobly done, ever remembered. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my left, amongst almost 40,000 Australians who died while serving in the Second World War. His photograph is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Pilot Officer Tasman Leonard Williams, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms and the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them. Lest we forget.
We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Poziere or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, students, that concludes the last post ceremony. We thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial and wish you a very good evening.